TIFU by walking into my son's bedroom without knocking while he was with his girlfriend. My son is 18 and we generally get along pretty well, though he's going through his own life and I'm trying to respect that. So I came home after work, him after school. I decided to visit his room to ask him what he wanted for dinner and to maybe play some Mario Kart. I'm still mortified at what I found. I walk in, fully clothed. My son's girlfriend is on all fours on the bed. My son's face is buried into her butt. She stares at me with the widest eyes I've ever seen and within milliseconds releases what can only be described as the horns of the apocalypse and farts directly into my son's face. He falls backward off the bed, brings down an entire table on top of him. She falls off the front of the bed flipped completely upside down, vertically. He yells "Dad!" when suddenly the contents of his entertainment center come crashing down on him. I rush to his aid. The room smells of some kind of mix of tuna fish and hard-boiled eggs. My son's pants are down, he's crying and I'm panicking trying to unbury him below the rubble. His girlfriend then runs out of the room and heads for the bathroom. All I can hear are explosive noises that could break glass with sound waves. My son is bleeding. I haven't said one word at this point. I muster the strength I have to get him to the car for an ER visit. I try to get his girlfriend but all I hear from the bathroom is a mix of crying and fart trumpets exploding. In a moment of weakness I back up and just leave my house locking the door. My son's alright now. Physically anyway. I'll update if he gets pink eye. His girlfriend hasn't contacted us so I can assume she's still going to town. I'm no longer hungry so dinner's out. TL, doctor walked in on my son burying his face into his girlfriend's coconut. She farts. He falls off bed and takes down a table and his entertainment center. Update. Thanks so much for the gold. I originally just wanted to type this out as a literal TIFU, as in I felt like I had really screwed up and wanted some support. I misunderstood the humor this subreddit is usually used for. I should have been more discreet with details to say the least. I never anticipated for a second this would grow to this level. My son is fine. He just ended up with a few scrapes and bruises. I was mainly concerned at the sight of blood added by the fact that all the objects falling down on him were pretty heavy game systems, figurine statues and the like. We haven't spoken much about the incident, but I did pry a few details out, in the least judgmental, kind way I could think to. They had the house to themselves. It started with cuddling as she didn't feel very well, obviously, and he admitted he just wanted to sniff her butt. She was probably reluctant to reveal how she didn't feel very well. We are talking, but not much. He's let out a few chuckles and smiles with red face. I realize walking in was a huge violation of privacy, but I am trying my very best to band-aid this. He is aware of the Reddit post but doesn't mind. When we got home the bottom lock on the door was locked and she was nowhere in sight. She hasn't contacted him at all since it happened, but in a few days or whenever she gets back to him I plan on driving him over to see her, and giving her the kindest smile and wave I can muster, all jokes suppressed. If any of his gaming stuff is damaged I plan on fully replacing them, and getting him new stuff as an apology. A few unanswered questions. I did not enter the room with my pants off. I was fully clothed, she was fully clothed, his pants were mealy down. I originally typed out the TIFU in a hurry while we sat down. I'm unsure what caused the massive explosion and upset stomach, but I suspect it was already brewing before I walked in, and she was trying to suppress it when she became a deer in headlights when I walked in. I'll knock before entering or maybe even call him the next time I get home. I realize now I invaded his privacy pretty heavily. The room does still faintly smell, and Febreze just lingers in the air with the smell. I suspect she did more than fart on his face. No pink eye luckily, either of us, yet. I'll update again if anything worth noting happens. Congratulations /you/concerned dolphin. This post has been chosen as the fuck up of the week. I once walked in on my little brother and had quite a conversation with him when he was in bed before his girl stuck her head out the side of the bed waist height to say she was up for food later also. She was in for seconds I guess. Never walk in without knocking. I'm glad my parents know what knocking is. That was a roller coaster of a story. He'll probably never be able to bring his girlfriend over for dinner without it being incredibly awkward. This'll probably be one of the main reasons he'll have for wanting his own place. Does she have flatulence problems? Jesus, she farted throughout the whole story. IBS. It can strike at stressful times. Like your boyfriend's dad walking in while his son eats your chocolate button. TIFU by gluing my banana cheeks together before a long-awaited date. So there is this girl who lives a state away from me, and she had been planning to come visit me for 3 months. The plan was for her to come over when I got off work at 9:30 am. I had worked 3 overnights in a row and I didn't have time to clean my apartment or get myself ready for her visit in the days prior due to being exhausted and or at work. Flash forward to this morning. Get off work around 8:25 and have an hour to get home and get ready before she gets there. I made it home and had 30 minutes to spare. I decided that at most I needed 5 minutes to shower, so I figured I had time to clean up a little bit. As I'm finishing cleaning, about to get in the shower, she texts me and says she will be 15 to 20 minutes late. This is where the cascading failures begin. 15 to 20 minutes isn't a lot of time, but I thought it was enough to get my downstairs trimmed up, just in case things got physical. At first I tried to use an electric razor and it was going pretty well. It quickly turned to banana and cut my right nut twice in like 10 seconds. I decided that there is no way I could finish this without my manhood looking like a murder scene. I was panicking and had no idea what to do, seeing as she'd be there in less than 10 minutes and my undercarriage was in shambles. I went to put my razor away under the sink and noticed a box of self-waxing strips that my friend had left behind when she was helping me wax my back. Perfect. I didn't have time to read the directions, so I ripped 2 strips open and placed them both into the middle of the jungle down there. Went to pull the first strip off and was greeted with extreme resistance and searing pain. Once again, I was too committed to not finishing and time was running out. I made the decision to rip the second strip off and just jump in the shower and hope that the encounter didn't turn physical. As soon as I go to wash the wax from my nether regions, I realize that an enormous amount of extremely sticky wax is still all over my crack. I frantically try every soap I had in my shower to get it off. I even tried to use a coffee ground face mask. That was unpleasant. At this point, somehow the wax sticky factor had quadrupled and I was 2 minutes away from her arrival. I said zucchini it and dried off and got dressed. She called me to say she was here and I got up to answer the door, when I realized that my boxers were stuck to my cheesecake and that my cheesecake cheeks were firmly stuck together. No time to figure it out now. We chatted for a while and things ended up moving into a physical direction. She could tell that I was wincing in pain when I moved around and she kept asking what was wrong. I played it off as muscle cramps. This worked fine until she went to take off my boxers and could feel the resistance of the wax glue from my cheeks and crack. She immediately looked concerned and I had no choice but to tell her what had gone down moments before her arrival. It has been a long time since I've been that embarrassed. The kicker is that once she stopped hysterically laughing at me, she pointed out that the wax kit comes with after wax removal wipes that I had failed to see during my frantic decision to wax in the first place. TL, doctor, I accidentally glued my zucchini cheeks together with a cheap self-waxing kit, moments before a girl came over and I couldn't get the wax off my zucchini before she got there. Edit, sorry y'all, I fell asleep after typing this. Didn't know so many people needed closure. I was successful in the mission with my rear flank exposed. My cheesecake cheeks got stuck to the sheets more than a few times and more than a few more hairs were removed that way, but all in all it went relatively well considering the circumstances. Edit 2, changed the infamous his to the proper pronoun. Sorry to ruin the conspiracy theories. Edit 3, yes, for all of those interested, we had button-out and I am seeing her again today. Also, I was talking to my best friend on Snapchat during the whole process and have a video of my reaction to the first strip being removed. I can post the link if anyone wants proof this happened. Edit 4, the video. Per requests. When you really don't like cheesecake blay. At least you didn't use super glue. One time I was working at a liquor store and one of my customers told me she went to jail for super gluing her ex's coconut cheeks together. She found out he was cheating on her, so while he was passed out drunk she glued his cheeks shut. When he got up, He went to take a coconut and it all sprayed out the top of his crack and onto the toilet tank and the wall. Thought it was really funny. Then he called 911, they sent EMS to take him to the hospital. He had to have a skin graft and she went to jail. She said it was worth it though. And that's enough Reddit for tonight. RIP. So, I'm really hoping she continued rip the boxers off before giving you the wipes. If so, she's a keeper. Actually, if she stayed with your dumb butternut after that introduction, you're probably good to go. Okay op, you have to finish your story. TIFU by having the FBI pull me out of class. Obligatory. This happened a few months ago. This was easily the most stressful roller coaster of an event that I hope I ever experience. Scene is freshman year of college. I'm a wide-eyed innocent student having a great time away from his parents. I've made some good friends and enjoy messing with them. As such, I decide to pull a little prank on them. It starts with a simple idea. I'm going to Ohio on a business trip. I was actually going to lunch with my parents, but this was a more fun story. I hadn't initially thought out this entire prank, but just like high school presentations, I decided to wing it. Every so often I would go on these out-of-state business trips, but I stayed vague as to what my business was. I told them that it was somewhat illegal, but in more of a gray area. My friends were incredibly intrigued by my illicit endeavors, and as time went on, they began to ask more questions about this business. I still had little to no plan for this ordeal, but boy did I milk it. I had them convinced that there were overseas bank accounts with millions of dollars in them and that I had several people involved in this business. At one point I told them the story of how one of my employees got caught trespassing on government property and I had to pay $10,000 to bail him out. I would accidentally send a picture of several $1,000s, claiming it was meant to go to someone else with no other explanation. This went on for several months up until about April. The semester was coming to a close, and I had to figure out a finale for my little project. My roommates were in on my prank and several iterations of plans were discussed. The final version of this bad idea plan was as follows. I will create an email address posing as the chief of police at my college. The email, the officer, we'll call him Bill Myers, will inform my friends that he is currently looking to bring in Short Tail 359 for questioning. I was very specific to say that no one should call 911 or contact anybody outside of this email address with the excuse that there was no official investigation, so Bill was looking into the matter himself. I then went on to explain how Short Tail 359 is conducting a business out of university housing and that this is all we know, but the business might be illegal/dangerous. In summation, email me if you know of Short Tail 359's whereabouts. Don't call 911, don't contact anyone else in the police department. I figured I covered my bases and sent the email. It was very well worded and quite convincing to a group of people who already believed I was running a secret business. Sure enough, my friends bought it hook, line and sinker. One of them replied, informing Bill that she didn't know anything about my business, other than that I mentioned it occasionally. 3 friends ignored the email altogether, and one texted me saying she didn't believe it. The next 3 days were interesting. I had several classes with these people and finals were upon us, so skipping class was not a good idea, but I had to make them believe I was on the run. Fortunately, some of these classes had several hundred students and I was able to sit far away from our usual spots. The smaller classes I avoided altogether. Meals were eaten at odd times, and at one point I had to hide in the shower because a friend was in my dorm. I had no contact with the prankish outside the occasional text. Fast forward to the Thursday I decided would be the day to reveal my shenanigans. I'm walking into class when these 2 men in suits stop me just inside the door. They ask me if I am Short Tail 359 and upon confirming this they tell me they need to speak with me outside. We walk downstairs to the building's lobby where I am greeted by 2 more men who have guns at their sides. All 4 of them hold up their badges in dramatic fashion and one introduces himself as Agent Michael Scarn with the FBI, fake name obviously. It was approximately at this point that I peed a little bit as I realized that I was in some trouble. Agent Scarn, do you know why we're here? Short Tail 359, no, but I have a pretty good guess. Agent Scan, well, why don't you tell us what your guess is? I proceeded to explain the email I sent out along with a brief summary of the genesis of my prank. 50 minutes of questioning later and I had given Agent Scan the password to the email account, signed an agreement saying I won't access the account or I'd face several charges, given a written statement of the events, crapped my pants twice, and completely missed my class. Agent Scan gave me his business card and said they would be in touch. I go back to my dorm and try to come to terms with the fact that I may have ruined my future career and life altogether. All my friends had a good laugh at my expense, but not before I had a good laugh at their expense for believing my stupid business story. After a long sleepless weekend I get a call from a sergeant at the police station. He says that he needs to meet with me and we arrange a time. I go down to the station and for 10 minutes all he does is yell at me and tell me what a stupid idea this was. Now I'm a pretty good kid. Never got in trouble in school, on a roll, never so much as a speeding ticket, so having a police officer yell at me was a new experience. He finally calms down enough for me to explain that this is an anomaly and that it was supposed to be an innocent prank. Believes me and tells me that regardless, they're going to charge me with criminal impersonation, which is a Class A misdemeanor. My court date is set for a couple weeks from now and that was the end of it. I go to court fully prepared to leave with a no longer perfect record. As the staff is processing me and taking my mugshot, a lady asks me what my name is. I tell her Short Tail 359, when a guy jumps around the corner and yells, "But you can just call him Chief Bill Myers." This was a much needed laugh and also informed me that word of my idiocy had gotten around town. I go into the courtroom and waited for this light-hearted judge to call my name. Most of the charges were speeding tickets or marijuana related, so the judge was moving pretty quickly. However, he calls my name and then pauses. Walk up to the podium and he's still paused, clearly reading over my file. He looks up at me, and then back down at my file again. After reading it completely through, he just starts laughing. Several minutes go by before he finally asks me if I have any sort of criminal history. I tell him I don't have so much as a speeding ticket and he asks if I would like to keep it that way. I happily say yes and he give the DA my paperwork. The DA asks for my story and tells me that he's never seen anything like this before, something I had heard several times at this point. He informs me that this is something they could have expunged as long as I pay my court fees. I thank him and go back to waiting for the judge to call me up again. When he does, a smile immediately dawns his face and he begins to chuckle. At this point I'm relieved enough to let out a giggle of my own, since I can feel the entire courtroom wondering what I've done. The judge tells me that he will expunge my charge and asks me if I will ever do something like this again. I assure him that I will not, and he says, with a smile on his face, "You know, son, everyone in this courtroom is wondering who you impersonated, but I'm going to do something that you should have done and keep my mouth shut." I thank him and sheepishly walk out of the room. Later that day I took the required documents back to the court and had the whole charge expunged in a matter of hours. It was easily the most stressful month of my life and was not worth it at all. But I am now able to walk around with an FBI agent's card in my wallet and keep a fond memory of being laughed at by a judge. TL, Doctor, I play a prank on my friends that ends with me being questioned by 4 FBI agents for almost an hour and charged with criminal impersonation. Here's a link to Agent Scan's business card. It's a little faded since it sits in my wallet. Edit 2, spelling. Congratulations /you /shorttail 359. This post has been voted by our community Discord as the fuck up of the week. I'm laughing with you up lol, but there's something I don't understand. Well, you see, one of my friends forwarded it to the police department and asked if it was real. They called in the FBI to investigate. I intentionally left this out of the story since it's a whole different rabbit hole that is more dramatic and not as interesting. Edit, we're still really good friends for everyone going, "Oh, what an awful person to rat you out. It was an honest mistake and she just wanted to see if the email was real." I'm not letting a good friend go just because of one screw up that didn't even end badly. I respect your dedication to the prank. I've also invested a lot of time in a prank before and I know the payout when you tell them the truth makes it all worth it. It would have been even better if you hadn't told your friends why the FBI actually wanted to talk to you and let them think that they were questioning you about your illegal business. Ha ha ha, I didn't even think about that. I was in such a panic it didn't even occur to me to continue the prank. So now you can use the card to impersonate an FBI agent. Brilliant. Now there's an idea. God, I hope this is a real story. I can post a picture of Agent Scarn's business card. It's got the FBI seal at the top.